This episode is brought to you by Indeed. Stop waiting around for the perfect candidate. Instead, use Indeed sponsored jobs to find the right people with the right skills fast. It's a simple way to make sure your listing is the first candidates see. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs have 4 times more applicants than non-sponsored jobs. So go build your dream team today with Indeed. Get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Whether you bond over streaming binge-worthy videos, watching sports recaps, video gaming, or by unplugging altogether, the 2026 Lincoln Nautilus Hybrid helps keep you connected throughout your journey. Learn more at Lincoln.com. Available connectivity features and functionality vary by model. Package pricing, trials, and term lengths vary by model. Video streaming and games are only available while parked.
AI is incredible. It can teach you how to fry an egg and even write a poem, pirate style. Yarr! But it knows nothing about your work. Slackbot is different. It doesn't just know the facts, it knows your schedule. It can turn a brainstorm into a brief, and it doesn't need to be taught. Because Slackbot isn't just another AI, it's AI that knows your work as well as you do. Visit slack.com/meet Slackbot to learn more.
So in the heyday of the late 1960s, if you drove down pretty much any American highway, you'd encounter something larger than life. Enormous fiberglass figures. For example, a giant man wearing a Texaco suit standing sentinel at a gas station, or a 20-foot-tall boy waving you into a burger joint. These giant statues became known as Muffler Men, though most never held a muffler. We'll learn why in a minute. They were America's supersized salesmen, and their story begins with a rodeo cowboy in California who loved his horses. I'm Aislinn Green, and this is Unpacked America 250, where we celebrate the traditions that make America, America. Bob Prewitt was that cowboy, and he loved horses so much that he started a company in Lawndale, California, building horse trailers for the rodeo circuit.
He wanted to model his trailer, and he started making fiberglass a horse to go in it, and then everyone wanted the horse, and then he started making all these animals.
That's Joel Baker. He's the founder of American Giants. It's a free museum devoted to these muffler men, also known as giants, that's located along Route 66 in Atlanta, Illinois. We're going to get back to the museum later in the episode, but for now, back to Bob. Around 1962, a restaurant owner asked Bob to make an enormous fiberglass Paul Bunyan to attract customers, because why not? It worked so well, in fact, that 20-foot-tall Paul Bunyan started popping up all over California. Picture towering bearded men in blue jeans, and of course, the iconic axe. But at scale. These giants eventually caught the eye of a bigger company, International Fiberglass, who bought the molds from Prewitt. And from there, the giants went national.
International Fiberglass, they had an excellent marketing manager. Her name was Violet Winslow. She was very good at her job. And so when she came on board at International Fiberglass, she started getting these giants in all these trade magazines and different shows and conventions and so on and so forth.
Violet's strategy worked. Business owners across the country began ordering these fiberglass giants, and International Fiberglass responded by creating variations: cowboys, spacemen, and generic figures that could be customized for any business. The giants spread in clusters across America. There were heavy concentrations in Southern California where they originated. Then there were some that popped up in New Jersey and New York. Basically anywhere entrepreneurs saw potential customers driving by. It's no surprise then that the oil companies took notice, and they saw an opportunity for nationwide branding campaigns.
They really tapped into the oil companies because there was a lot of money there. So you have Phillips 66 and Texaco doing these different programs with these giants. And so that really helped push them all over the country.
Texaco's Big Friend program in the mid-1960s represented the peak of this, shall we say, giant ambition. The company ordered 300 custom figures. They were 23-foot-tall servicemen designed specifically for gas stations, and they had an option to add 2,800 more.
They deployed them all across the United States. They were massive, and what basically happened is it was a real pain to move them around, set them up. The jobbers, the Texaco jobbers, the guys in charge of like all the oil stuff and who got tasked with these big giants, hated it. You know, they were hard to set up. The wind was blowing them over. They were cracking. Vandals were stealing the head or a hand or something.
So within months, Texaco pulled the plug.
Texaco's like, we're done with this, scrap the program. And they didn't want people to take the giants and repurpose them for their own business, much like Cecil B. DeMille destroyed his movie sets in Hollywood in the 1920s because he didn't want anybody to come and make a movie off his sets. It was the same idea with Texaco. And so they ordered all these giants destroyed.
By the early 1970s, the era of mass-produced roadside giants had pretty much ended. They were sold off or simply discarded as businesses changed hands and tastes shifted. Now back to Joel's story. He had no intention of becoming America's leading expert on fiberglass giants. In the early 2000s, he was working in mobile television production, traveling constantly to cover sports and events. During a job in Florida, he saw something that sparked his curiosity.
I was in Florida. We were doing an event near Dade City, Zephyr Hills area. And I think there was a dinosaur alongside the road. I was trying to figure out what the story was because it was headless and old. And I was like, oh, this is weird. And that led me to Roadside America. And they had a banner there like the Muffler Men.
That's actually where Joel discovered the origin of the name Muffler Man.
The reason we call them that has nothing to do with the history of the 60s. It has more to do with the 1980s, I believe, when the guys at a website called Roadside America, actually they didn't have a website back then, it was a book they were making, later became a website which really highlighted all these roadside attractions, and they started noticing these guys. And because by chance the first few they saw held mufflers, they called them Muffler Men, which is funny because the vast majority of them do not hold mufflers.
While perusing that website, that Roadside America website on the Florida trip, Joel discovered a map with giant locations across the country, and 2 were nearby.
So within a day, I had gone and seen my first 2 giants. And I don't know what it was about them. I just thought, this is so cool because they're so old and they're all over the country. And there's all these variants that kind of look the same, but they're all different. And they all have these different stories. And I think I've always enjoyed history.
Joel's media background gave him tools other enthusiasts lacked: cameras, editing software, and a storytelling instinct, as you can hear. He began documenting not just the giants themselves, but the stories behind them, which are just as fascinating.
I would dig more than most or anybody else that I knew into these stories and start uncovering pictures and, oh, this one was actually over here and then he moved here. And I realized pretty quick, people like this. They like the deep dive into it that they're not getting by just looking at the giant.
Documentation led to collecting. Joel's first purchase was something called a snurd. It's kind of a country bumpkin figure. It has the same body as a Muffler Man, but a nerdier head.
I remember the first time I saw one and the guy was like, oh yeah, well, it's for sale. It was like a light bulb went off in my head, oh, I could actually own one of these. And then of course, yes, once you buy one, you've got to bring it home. So that was an interesting conversation with my wife. And, he lived in our garden for a number of years and just kind of hung out back there, and that was cool.
Joel and his colleagues from the TV production crew began finding and restoring giants in their spare time and documenting the process online.
My buddies who were on the road with me, they were watching me, and of course they thought I was crazy and made fun of me quite a bit in the beginning. But over time, these guys I worked with, they took an interest and they taught themselves fiberglassing and restoration and painting. And so we started using our garage, my buddy's garage, to restore these giants. And we were doing videos on our restoration, and that really got people excited because now you're taking something that's really old and falling apart and has no future of a life, and you're giving him new life, and people love that.
The restoration videos attracted attention from other collectors and from people who own giants but didn't know what to do with them, because what do you do with a 20-foot-tall burger boy? So Joel's collection grew, and it was stored at various friends' properties.
Over time, you build up this amount of giants, and I didn't like the fact that I had all these giants and nobody was getting to see them. That really bugged me.
In 2012, Joel took his first dedicated giant hunting road trip along Route 66 in Illinois. In the small town of Atlanta, he stopped to photograph a Paul Bunyan holding a hot dog outside a restaurant. And that's how he met Bill Thomas, the now curator of the museum.
And that's when Bill literally saw me from his office window out there and came out and talked to me. And that's how that friendship started way back in 2012.
Bill Thomas is a member of the Atlanta Betterment Fund, a local organization focused on historic preservation and tourism. As Joel's collection grew, the two men began discussing a radical idea.
I don't know which one of us brought it up first, but it was like, what if I could get my collection out of storage and we could get it where people could actually see them and learn about them? So that was the very beginnings of the museum.
We'll hear more about the museum after a few words from our sponsors.
This episode is brought to you by FX's The Beauty Official Podcast. Join host Evan Ross Katz on the official podcast for FX's hottest new series, The Beauty, taking you behind the scenes with its amazing stars as they discuss the show's most jaw-dropping moments. Featuring Evan Peters, Anthony Ramos, Jeremy Pope, Ashton Kutcher, Rebecca Hall, Bella Hadid, Meghan Trainor, Isabella Rossellini, Jessica Alexander, and Ari Grainer. Search FX's The Beauty wherever you listen to podcasts.
Kaylee Cuoco and Sam Claflin star in the MGM Plus original series, Vanished. When the man Alice loves disappears on a train to the south of France, every romantic memory becomes evidence. Every intimate detail, a potential threat. She thought she knew everything about him, but she may not even know his real name. 4-part thriller Vanished premieres February 1st on MGM Plus. Finding the truth is a dangerous affair.
The American Giants Museum opened in 2023, and the centerpiece is Joel's restored big friend, one of only 6 known survivors from the original 300 from the old Texaco campaign.
I was able to find one that stood on the boulevard in Las Vegas, and it was a long journey for him, but eventually we got him restored and he stands there. But that's why the building looks the way it does, is because we wanted to make that building kind of look like an old Texaco station, even though it's not.
The museum looks like a big white garage with red gas pumps out front, and it combines the kind of visual impact of the Giants with extensive historical documentation.
We filled the inside of the museum with all the research, much of the research I've done about the Giants. And, I got comments early on like, well, people aren't going to read all that. And not everybody does, but a lot do. They can geek out on that stuff and really learn that history.
Visitor reactions have been overwhelmingly positive.
The only negative feedback I get is when people get there and it's closed and they want to see it. But I think it's been really different. There's a lot of similarities of things you can see on Route 66. And I think this giant museum, this Muffler Man museum, has been something totally different. But still extremely nostalgic and quirky and all the things people love about the route.
Joel has big plans for expanding the museum. He even has the concrete display slabs ready for his next giant additions.
My goal is to have 2 more giants on those slabs by next year, next May. And then, it'll look full. And, of course, we'll do other things inside and probably put some new rotating exhibits inside and merch and things like that.
Recent acquisitions include a Bob's Big Boy figure.
So a Big Boy, is probably one of the most iconic figures that's one of these roadside, advertising figures. But Bob's Big Boy was like a little hamburger joint. And that was their mascot, was this little boy that, had a bit of a belly and these suspenders and this checkered, white and red. And it ended up getting franchised all over the country under different names like Shoney's and Frisch's and all these things. And so everybody knows about Bob's Big Boy, or most people do, and it's very connected to these, road trips and nostalgia and neon sign and that whole, old 1960s world that we just love.
Joel continues to hunt for rare giants, though he acknowledges that his holy grail, the Texaco Big Friend, is unlikely to be found again.
Every few years, something. Normally it's like a hand or a head of one will emerge.
That's so
It's very
creepy.
rare when a whole body does, because what would happen is these Texaco guys would often be ordered to destroy the giant, but they would be like, well, that's cool, I don't want to, so I'm going to take the head home and put it in my garage.
One guy even turned a head into a playground for his young children.
He cut holes in the ice so they could look out and all this stuff, built some stairs inside so they could go up into the head, and all this wild stuff. And then, all these years later, their children contact us and the thing is still in the backyard, so it's like an incredible find.
The museum currently operates as a free attraction because Joel's mission is part preservation and part nostalgia.
And it wasn't all rosy back in the 1960s, but, as far as visually driving down the road, it was a special time with neon, and these giants were a part of that, And for a lot of people, it's special because it comes with childhood memories. And, maybe they took a road trip with their dad, or something. And a lot of people even have vintage photographs of themselves as kids with these giants.
The giants continue to serve their original purpose decades after their commercial heyday.
Back in the 60s, these giants brought, in most cases, unless you were a tiny kid and you screamed when you saw them, but they brought joy to a family. They were on a road trip, they all could get out of the car and see the giant. It was cool, the kids liked it, and I think those giants still fulfill that mission today.
And it's pretty cool because the visitors who come to the museum are often children who've grown up with smartphones and digital entertainment, and they still find themselves captivated by these analog attractions.
I think people who visit the museum, it's a good part of their day. They got to see something unique and exciting and learn something and just see something bigger than life.
For Unpacked America 250, I'm Aislinn Green. Thanks for traveling back in time with us to when giants ruled the highways. We appreciate you joining this episode of Unpacked America 250. Check the show notes for links to the American Giant Museum, previous episodes featuring go-go music in DC, Minnesota sauna culture, and the history of Florida's beach architecture. You'll also find a link to our other America 250 coverage on afar.com. We'll see you next time.